Hey, it's Greg with Mind Your Hive's Beekeeping and Carrot Joe Bee Farm. It's mid-November. We're doing kind of the next step here in wintering our... wintering, what do you call it? Preparing for winter, winterizing our hives. So last week, on super unseasonably warm temperatures, we had literally temps in the upper 70s, almost 80 degrees, and lows at about 38, 40 degrees. So just these really crazy temperature variations. The bees were flying around trying to forage, but I mean, as you can see, it's mid-November. None of these plants are giving up any nectar or pollen. So they're just wasting all this energy. Then these foragers come back to the hive and they have to eat. They've got to replenish this energy that they wasted. Which sucks. So what we made sure to have on, we had on some syrup. What's good about using 2-to-1 syrup this time of year, well, ideally in November, we're not giving them any syrup at all, but the temperatures are so high we were. But what they'll do is a lot of times they'll actually just directly eat that syrup rather than store it. So they keep their stores intact, they eat that syrup, and they're not depleting the stores that they work so hard that are contained in these bottom 3 boxes. But now the temperatures are dropping. It's not going to get over 50 today, and I'm not looking at the next 6-7 days. I don't see any temperatures above 50, 55 degrees, so you don't want to have syrup on. They're probably not going to take it because it's cold, and they don't want to put that cold in their body. They can't do anything if their bodies are that cold. But B, if they are able to take it, because, you know, it's a little warmer inside the hive and we feed internally here, but then they're going to store that, and then the moisture content is higher than you want it to be in the hive. So we're taking off the 2-to-1 sugar syrup that we have on. We're putting in a fondant patty, and we're putting the winter shim on top. And I'm going to show you our little design that we have for the shims that we made. I really like this method. I used it last year in a slightly different way, and it worked really well. So here's one of the fondant patties. We bought it in our beekeeper club. Bought 50-pound boxes at like a wholesale price, and we were able to, you know, get these a little bit cheaper. More about just somebody went and got them. You know, you had to travel about an hour away to get them, so somebody was able to go pick them up, which is really nice. So got that set up. Let me see what we got going on here. All right, nice. All right, so medium, we're overwintering with 3 boxes right now. Obviously we got the lid on. We have a shim on already because the gallon containers are a little too high that we use for syrup feeding. They're a little too high, so you need to have that extra shim on. Or if you had a deep box, that works on top. And then this is the shim that we make. So what I do is I just take 4-inch board, make it into an easy, you know, size of a size of a 10 frame box. I've got this 2-inch insulation, cut that to size, and I put screening here. I used to use hardware cloth. Hardware cloth lays very flush. Screening allows for a little bit more give, so it's actually going to allow you to put the fondant right on top of the frames. You can put this shim over top. The bees can't get up, and then the insulation, and we do reflective side down, keep the heat in. The insulation sits right on top. As they eat that fondant, the insulation can drop down, creating less space. Perfect. Yeah, so I really liked it. This apiary, this is the first year we're overwintering in this apiary, and this apiary is really dry. It's a ton of sun. Our previous apiary was surrounded by streams. It was a lot more wet. So rather than this insulation board, we actually would do a layer of pine shavings, and those pine shavings were there to provide a little bit of insulation, but more importantly, collect excess moisture. I'm not worried about excess moisture in this apiary, so we switched over. A little more open to the elements. All these trees drop their leaves. It gets a little bit more wind here. So I'm just gonna give them a little added protection up top. But this is one of those things, is when one beekeeper tells you what they're doing, you know, there's a right decision, and it's always for your apiary, for your location. What another beekeeper is doing doesn't necessarily match up. What we did last year in a different apiary doesn't match up with this year. So you got to take in all the information and decide what makes sense. Don't just emulate what you're seeing from somebody else. All right, so got our shim already ready to go. Got our fondant cut ready to go. I'm going to take this box off. And there's probably syrup in this. I mean, you know, I just wanted to make sure they were stocked a week ago, and they're not. Yeah, it's pretty light actually. Wow. So they've been taking it. I'm glad we had it on. So just gonna smoke them down, see if we can't get them to go in on their own. It's, you know, it's probably 45 degrees right here. I don't want them flying around. I don't want to open up the hive. I don't want to open up this hive for an extended period of time. So, all right. No need to have the inner cover. I don't overwinter with an inner cover. If we get like a really bad snow and ice storm, I'll come out and just make sure that they have an exit at the bottom of the hive. But I don't find the need. If you're thinking about them, you know, overwintering in their natural environment in a tree, there's no upper entrance in a tree. And you want, I personally want as small of an entrance as possible, just so they can keep their warmth in and keep pests out. All right, knock them off. That in front. You know, not a crazy population in this top box right now. It looks like they're down below, but there's definitely bees. That's always good. I'm gonna lay this fondant. Let me make sure some of these bees aren't up top. Beautiful. Get out of your bees. I'm gonna go ahead and lay that cut, that slit I made. I'm laying that across the frames to give them access from a couple different points. And obviously, go ahead and put our screened shim on top of that. Already got the insulation in there. Wham bam, thank you ma'am. Cover is on top, and that's it. We will eventually put a hive wrap, a very thin hive wrap on the outside, not so much for insulation purposes, but really is just a final wind blocker. I'm gonna go in and we're gonna do one more oxalic acid vaporization. We're gonna do one more OAV treatment now that there's no brood. And once I do that, see, look at this, the yellow jackets are still flying. Yellow jackets are still out and about. Another reason to limit the amount of entrances you have in hives, so they can fend those nasty yellow jackets off easier. What was I saying? So I'm gonna do one more OAV treatment. Because there's no more brood present, or very, very, very limited amount of brood present, you're able to do an OAV and knock down, you know, 99% plus of the mites that are still in these hives. And just give them the best chance. Those mites feed off of the fat bodies. Those fat bodies is literally where all the nutrients are stored that they need for winter, and that they need in the early spring, very late winter, when they start making more brood. They don't have access to fresh pollen, but they've stored all those same amino acids and nutrients in their fat bodies. They were able to regurgitate that up, something that winter bees can do that summer and spring bees can't. They're able to regurgitate those nutrients from the fat bodies, feed them to the larvae, and get really healthy larvae. Another reason that you want to make sure your bees have great access to, you know, a lot of different forage, and you don't want to take, you know, a lot of people have pollen traps. If you're using a pollen trap, take very little and make sure you're only doing it for a few days a month. That way they're getting a full range of different pollens, because different pollens contain different amino acids, and they need all of those amino acids to be healthy. That's a total other topic, but super easy. That's how we're doing it, and that's how we're doing it in this apiary. I hope your bees are prepared for winter. I hope you're doing everything you can, and if you have any questions, feel free, reach out. We appreciate it. Kara and I are happy to help. Again, Greg with Mind Your Hives Beekeeping, and yeah, thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it.